Welcome to another edition of Pittsburgh Sportsline. Thanks for tuning in on Verizon 32, Comcast 7, YouTube, and we're up to 1,427 likes on Pittsburgh Sportsline. So I appreciate that on Facebook. Stephanie's in the control room. You do not have to have a drink. That's Chip's wife. So you do not have to drink in the studio, nor do we recommend that. She's actually here, and we have baby Liam here. It's a family show. We're live TV. We got Chris Satter here. Matt Harkins, who I forgot about last week, he's in the control room also, and he was here with us. And we got the Tiger Kiger here. Aaron Ward's there, and I forget our other guy, Devin Shea.
Yeah.
So he's there.
Daddy.
Yeah. And I forgot his mom, Liam's mom's name, so if somebody would tell Chris so I can shout out to her. There's too many pauses. Hey, thanks again for watching the show. Thanks to Bethel Park. I'm Al Levine, the Talking Machine, Chip the Prophet Hayner, Smoking Jim Frazier. And if you haven't watched the show, we do a segment, What's on Our Mind? And we're going to start that right now with Smoking Jim Frazier. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks, Al Levine, the Talking Machine. And if you want the green, you got to see Levine. What's on my mind is the Miami Dolphins. Mm-hmm. And the Miami Dolphins is in the headline news. And as an NFL scout, I got to talk about a little bit about Richie Incognito. No. Mm-hmm. And, ooh, that was hard to say, versus Jonathan Martin. And I tell you what, I scouted Richie when he was at Nebraska, and one of the all-time great football players. And I'm not sure everybody will agree with me, but at 30 years old, I would take Richie right now. And, yeah, it's tough. You know, some of the things that go on in the National Football League is tough, but I don't really believe you can bully somebody that's 6'5", 324 pounds. I believe that if you're 6'5", 325 pounds and you're being bullied, then you're just a soft brother, and the Steelers got a lot of 320-pound soft brothers. So I look at it this way. In the National Football League, everybody's not going to get along. Everybody's not going to like one another. But the one thing I can say is you don't win football games necessarily with a team full of choir boys. And Richie's from northern New Jersey, and it brought back kind of memories of Conrad Dobler, because that's the way he plays. A guy I feel like should be in the Hall of Fame, a dirty player. But Richie is strong and explosive. He got kicked out of Nebraska when he was there. He has some anger management problems, but nobody in the National Football League wants to play against this guy. And it brings back memories back when the Steelers had guys like Mike Webster, Steve Corson, those type guys on the offensive line that was tough. And don't forget, defensively, you had guys like Mean Joe Green, you had Mad Dog Dwight White, and you had my guy, the lunatic, Lambert's Lunatics. And Jack Lambert feared nobody on this earth but one guy, and that was Arrowhead Holmes. Even Joe Green didn't mess with Arrowhead Holmes. So you got to have guys on your football team that's mean and nasty. If you got the right coach in place that can handle the players and keep everybody in line, you got no problem. Some of my all-time favorite players, Bill Romanowski. You know what I mean? Mean. Lyle Alzado. Mean and nasty. These are guys that you didn't want to mess with on the field, and you didn't want to mess with off the field. Same way with Richie. Don't forget, last year, Rich made the Pro Bowl. Last year, he was voted as the team's good guy by the media. He was the go-to guy at the media. He's a smart guy. He went in the offseason to Harvard Business School. And I'm sure we're going to revisit that. But at 6'3", 320 pounds with a mean streak, I take him every day of the week. May not take him to an NAACP meeting, but I take him on the field on Sundays. And that's what's on my mind.
Thanks, Smoking Jim. And the disclaimer, these are his own opinions. I know the disclaimer's up there right away. You can call 412-831-3304. And I appreciate what you're saying there, buddy. I'm sort of old school, and we'll revisit some of that. There's no problem. And I want to shout out to Zach Brenner. Normally we do our What's on Your Mind. He has his plumbing certificate on his mind. He's still working on that plumbing certificate. He's up to 501 of them that he's printed off. Just so you know, Smoking Jim. Now we'll go to Chip the Prophet Hayner. What's on your mind tonight?
Thank you, Alan. And as always, my friend Jim Frazier here is a tough act to follow.
Well, that's why I gave a little interruption with Little Z.
I'm going to go in a football vein as well, and I'm going to kind of go a little bit away from the pros. And right now, last weekend was the first weekend of the WPIAL playoffs, and Western Pennsylvania's got some of the best football in the country going on right now. And I went to one of the opening round games last week. Of course, Jim was there rooting on his Gateway Gators. I happened to go see the Bethel Park Blackhawks play the North Allegheny Tigers, and I was really kind of impressed in one way in this game. Unfortunately, Bethel Park got shut out 28-0, and there isn't a single person that should have anything to do with the Bethel Park football program that should be hang their head about the way they played that game or the way they presented themselves. Just never seeing either one of these teams play before I came out, and I was struck by the North Allegheny team seemed to be bigger and more athletic. But I'll tell you one thing that Bethel Park team had that you can't buy is those young men had a lot of heart, and they played their hearts out. And even though they got shut out and lost by 28-0, the game was close until about midway through the third quarter. And they gave as good as they got. And those North Allegheny players were hitting them hard, and those boys were jumping right back up. And tip my hat off to the Blackhawk team, the coaches, and the parents of those young men should be proud of their children because they represented themselves well, even in a losing effort. But that's what's on my mind. I just wanted to give a shout out to Bethel Park.
Thank you. We appreciate it. And the election, I think, is over, so you can't really run for mayor right now.
Maybe next year.
And he lives in Brentwood, folks. He'll have to move and set up residency. Chip comes off with some good ones. I thought he was running for office for a second.
No, that's just genuinely. I was very impressed with what I saw last Friday night.
They know I'm sarcastic. Chief, you know I'm sarcastic. Call in 412-831-3304. No, I appreciate it. And Coach Mathaney's done a great job, and his son, his quarterback this year, did get hurt, so he wasn't able to play there either. So it shows the character of the, football team, coaches, and everybody else. I see them practicing all the time, and there's no quit in them. So sometimes you do meet a better team, and that happens. Go get them next year, Blackhawks. There we go. Now, I got a couple promos here. I was talking to our friend Jimmy Savetic, and Saturday night is the, what are we calling that, black and gold bouts? Because I never know. He tells me all these stories. I can't wait to repeat our conversation off air, Smoking Jim. But we'll be there Saturday night. Doors open up at 6:30. We'll be filming that. Smoking Jim and I will be ringside. Andy Sebastian, who was on our show a couple weeks ago, he'll be in the ring doing the announcing. Jimmy Savetic said he wants to test me and put me in as a ring announcer for one bout, so I can go up on stage. So thanks, Jimmy Savetic. Anybody watching, give him a call. Because what's his phone number again? Anybody?
Is this here, 298?
Yeah, 412-298-7373. And we're having that red carpet with White Collar Brawler. I just like their page. So if you guys see that I liked it and I invite you to it, try to give some lights to the White Collar Brawler page.
Already
Smoking Jim? All right, thanks. And they'll have more things because it's going to be on channel 160 on TV. It's the Esquire Network, so you'll be seeing some of that. Then I got my other promotion with Howard Hanna here against the, Pittsburgh and Cleveland. It's a tailgate party. Steeler game day party. Proceeds benefit the Children's Free Care Fund. They're looking to raise $800,000. Doors open up on the 24th at noon. That's November 24th. $35 per person, includes a buffet, open bar throughout the game. You can get tickets, football, pool, $20 a block. Smoking Jim, I keep telling you. They're going to have a $15,000 cash raffle.
Wow.
So there's some serious money. Contact them at 412-833-3600, either extension 222 or extension 212. Ask for Sue or Frankie. So check that out. It's a great event. Then our magazine, we're going to try to get this thing out next week. We're getting close to that, so Pittsburgh Sports Line's moving on. Then what's on my mind? Well, one of them is the Steelers. Rebuilding, go against the Bills, go Steelers. What else is on my mind is the Pens have been doing well. We sort of lost that in the shuffle here. We have a hockey season here in Pittsburgh, and they're doing rather well. Fleury's playing lights out most of the times that he's there. The young kid that they have is the backup goaltender. He didn't know he'd be in the NHL this year. He wasn't supposed to. Prayers go out to Vacun. Yes, Smoking Jim. He's had a blood clot, and he's getting better, but he may not play this year. So we're in the Metropolitan Division, and it's rather weak, so let's get all these W's early. We need some W's from some teams, and then Cutts just won an award. You can see it on Pittsburgh Sports Line on Facebook. Liriano won an award. They're going to collect a lot of trophies this year, and sure they didn't win the big one, and no, there's not a parade, Smoking Jim. Just because you're over 500, there's no parade in Pittsburgh. They got to win a championship. But we appreciate the W's, and that's what's on my mind. And now we're going to we revisit what's on our mind. And I wanted to at least get into a little bit about bullying, because what's happening in society is you do have bullies, but we're talking mostly about young kids that you do this with. Look at in school, look at other things, and people have gotten so politically correct. And these are my own opinions. These aren't the opinions of the other guys here. That we sort of lost our moral barometer here. Now, I don't know if a 6'5", 320-pound guy is a tough guy or not. I played against some guys that were 280, 300 pounds, and I was 178, 180 pounds. And I don't know if they were tough. I know I tried to knock them over, and I didn't always do that well. You know, at KO, we had some of the smaller teams, but we played against Upper St. Clair, Mount Lebanon, Cannon Mac, Chartiers Valley, and we were outmanned most of the time, and we had some great athletes. So I don't know how you get bullied with that, but I've seen it. I've seen big guys that cry because somebody hurt their feelings, and I've seen little kids never play a sport again because somebody told them they'll never be anything. Good point. And I've also been on teams where they go, atta boy, atta girl. They're throwing to the wrong base. They're swinging baseball bats like that. And the kids never played after a couple years. They never even got to Little League. At least teach them fundamentals so then they have the tools to play so they can at least be competent with the other people. But when you're at the NFL level, what are you even doing playing a game with men if you can't take some of this? Because we all do these things in life. I'm as sarcastic as they come. If I offend any of your feelings out there, I apologize. It's meant in jest. But when we're talking serious like this, there is a problem in society right now. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Who knows the drugs and things people are on, the steroids, the HGH. People get aggravated. You're talking about, you know, back in the day with Ernie Holmes. Most of the Steelers were on steroids. We didn't even touch on it last night. Most of them died before they were 50. Think what that does to people.
Well, to speak to this issue with Richie Incognito, you know, and, you know, bullying in and of itself is something that, you know, we need to find a way to, you know, minimize and get out of society. Because, you know, when I was a child growing up, and you go to your first gym class with a, you know, bunch of kids. Yeah, there's a big kid in there that would tease you or whatever, but you would, you know, you'd square off with them, punch them in the mouth, or you'd get popped in the mouth, and then it was over and done with, you know. But nowadays, kids come in and they pull out guns, and you know, and subsequently innocent people. Now, you know, we don't really know what the truth is about this situation. All we've seen is little snippets of information, and I think it's ironic that this Jonathan Martin's mother and father were both Harvard law graduates. Okay, it's kind of interesting how this you know, they you know, in what context were the comments made? Now, the comments that were made, I've seen some transcripts of it. Yeah, maybe he crossed the line a little bit there, and you know, there is a way, you know, and I mean, locker room humor, there is a way to go up to a certain point, but then there's a point where you go too far. And, you know, before we judge anybody, I think what we really need to do is find out what all the facts are, because, you know, everybody wants to jump in outrage and condemn this, you know, Richie Incognito, and he hasn't really made it easy for himself because he's got so many instances of being thrown out of Nebraska and thrown out of another school, and the dirtiest player in the NFL, and being fined for this and fined for that. So It's a shame that it's going to be tried in the court of public opinion instead of where it should be. But, there's a lot more to come on this, I'm sure.
And see, I look at a couple of guys. Here we're in southwestern Pennsylvania. A lot of people have heard of the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's a couple of guys that come to mind. One, Alan Faneca, who's a class act. But Alan Faneca is a tough kid, and he's a tough kid from down south. Played at LSU, and I tell you what, this guy would pancake you on the field, and he took no stuff off the field. Another guy who wasn't the greatest football player in the world, but he was a great. He used to get the job done. Justin Strauzic played on the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line. Those are guys that were no-nonsense guys. Defensive guys didn't mess with them too much. And there's another guy defensively was Greg Lloyd. I mean, these are guys who I really think to win football games, like I said before, you're not going to have players that all like each other, but you have to be able to play on Sunday. And when you got a great coach like a Bill Cowher, you can have diversified personalities in there because he's going to keep everybody. He's going to keep everybody straight. At Jimmy Johnson, keep it Bill Parcells. But you got to have a guy that comes in the locker room and be able to make sure everybody's on the same page. And when they're talking, everybody's paying attention. They're not listening to rap music. They don't have the headsets on. They're not talking. They're not doing this or that. You got to have that. And I think that's what the Ravens are lacking. Like I said before, they'll never win without Ray Lewis, one of the natural, pure leaders of all time. And in my opinion, the greatest football player of all time. And I tell you what, I would take a Conrad Dobler anytime, and I'm sure you remember him, Al. And I would take a Lau.
I read a book on him.
The book on
he
and I would
had a
take
personal
Richie.
foul every game. He violated the sport every time. He was holding or hurting somebody on every play.
Yes.
He said, they will not call me on every play.
And my favorite player of all time, and should be in the Hall of Fame, and God rest his soul, and he was you look at those teams in the 70s, the Oakland Raiders. Nobody wanted to play the Raiders. Nobody wanted to go to Oakland to play
the black hole.
In the black hole. But Jack Tatum was as great a safety as ever played in this league, and he could hit harder than probably anybody ever played in the league. And here's one more example
Keep
for you,
bringing
Chip.
them, buddy. We're doing a little
Joe
discussion.
Green. See, this is the thing. The Steelers weren't that good. Their Steelers were horrible in '69 when Chuck Noll came in, and I'm sure Jim O'Brien will bring that out. But Mean Joe Green, when they drafted him, Mean Joe Green was so mean. The toughest guy in the National Football League at that time was Dick Butkus for the Chicago Bears. Dick Butkus cheap shot at one of our players. Joe Green grabbed him up, picked him up off his feet, spit in his face, and Dick Butkus went to the other sideline. And that's why when the Steelers tried to sue Oakland Raiders for a criminal element in the National Football League, the court decided that y'all got a bunch of criminals too. You know what I mean?
Well,
you got a bunch of criminals
look at some
too.
of the guys that hit guys. Look at Mel Blunt. They changed how the league played defense.
What Mel Blunt did to receivers on the field, you go to prison for. If you did that on the street,
Yeah, you would.
And look at the defensive line. Look at the defense.
I mean, that was assault and battery. no question
Grab
about
Z.
that.
Just set Z
But
down.
speaking of one last thing about this Richie Incognito thing, and
You can set it down. buddy.
ultimately,
We've
here's
seen enough.
what's going to happen
Later.
is Incognito is going to be blackballed out of the NFL,
Right.
Because
At
of
30
this.
years old.
Jonathan Martin is going to be blackballed out of the NFL because nobody's going to want to play with him. But there's going to be another victim of this, and it's going to be the Jerry Philbin, the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, because ultimately he's supposed to make sure that that he's got his finger on the pulse of the team. And if you've got this kind of abuse going on in your locker room, you cannot tell me as a head coach of that team, and you're with these guys 7 days a week for 6 or 7 months out of the year, that you don't know that these two guys are having some type of a conflict. I mean, come on.
I don't know, Chip. I got to interrupt you here. A lot of these coaches, they leave it all to their assistant coaches and other coaches. They're above a lot of this. If you ask Smoke and Jim, a lot of these head coaches, they're like a general. They know about some of these guys. But they don't see some of that, and they're not going to be told. Guys aren't coming up to them to tell them that.
But you know what? Just like you say that these are guys that are like generals, but the generals that are successful and become famous, lead their troops, they know what's going on
Chip,
in their
here, that's
house.
why I'm telling you that. We have the same situation here in Pittsburgh. And that's part of it. You have it in other teams. I think Philbin's like that. And then on many other teams. My thing is, with Smoke and Jim in this discussion, I'm glad you brought it up because I wanted to bring it up, so you beat me to it. And part of it is, that's why we don't talk ahead of time. And he made it with 2 minutes to go. So that's part of the problem there. But what I do want to say, I want to continue the conversation a little bit here. You do want a player on the edge because when they think you're crazy,
yes, sir.
Now they might fumble the ball or they'll hesitate.
Yeah.
If they just pause that second to think, you have them, right?
Case in point. That's an excellent point, Al, and Chip, you always make great points. Listen, I'm telling you right now, the National Football League is soft. They want it to be soft. They don't want it to be violence. I go to the league. I go to games to see people carted off in the ambulance. I mean, that's just me.
Let me interrupt you one second here. The NFL doesn't want to do it. They have $1 billion industry. It's the people watching it that want to see it change and they'll sue them.
Right.
That's why they're doing it. But you're like me. Finish your thought.
This is the thought. This is all you need to know about what Al says and how teams can get in your head. I'm telling you, one of the greatest defense of all time was the 70 Steelers. Second greatest defense of all time was probably the 85 Bears, and the third greatest defense of all time was 17 years of Ray Lewis. But
did you say that out loud?
A very average defense intimidated the entire National Football League, and they won the Super Bowl, the Bounty Gate of New Orleans. When they put that bounty out and those defensive players started playing at another level, you can see the offensive players not want no part of that because them guys was out to get that bounty, and that was the difference. It was in their head.
Exactly.
Right,
that little
on
pause.
the edge.
But you know what? The thing is, we talk about the NFL is not just trying to move away from violence, and and football always has been and always will be. It's a violent sport. I mean, and that's what the allure is to it. Why do you think, you go back to the Roman days, why do people flock to see the gladiators? Because they weren't there to see the violence. Yeah. But as much as the NFL is trying to rule the violence out of you, they're still marketing tapes that say, the top 10 greatest hits, and they're watching people,
there's a double, triple standard.
Oh, yeah, they're hypocrites by all that.
Good
so,
point. Good point.
No, and that's why I wanted to bring that last couple points on that. We did a heck of a revisitation here, folks.
Yep.
Call in 412-831. Forget about it. You're not calling in tonight. It's election night. They're bringing in that new mayor of Pittsburgh, Peduto.
Wow.
He'll be winning, so I got invited to that party. I can't go to home. We going? It'll be over by the time we. No, they'll be starting.
Because they won't have the all 12 votes counted until 11 or 12 o'clock.
Whoa. There's over 300-some-thousand people in the city now again. It's rising.
The guy with the tattoo on his face didn't win it?
No.
Which one was he?
Richardson was his name. Yeah. He was hanging with, he woke up, he was out drinking with Mike Tyson, and he woke up and he was like, oops.
See, we cover everything here.
He lost a bet.
We cover it all here. Politics, sports. And I want to give a special shout out to all the fans in the Market District. We're going to talk about this in a couple minutes, but Jim O'Brien was just unreal, and he mentioned the lady in the fish department and the other people there and his friends. He goes, they keep talking about Pittsburgh Sports Line. Come on out to Sip Sports Bar and see us there. But we're going to go to one of my favorite segments here, Fiction and Fact from Smokin' Jim's Almanac.
Hey, thanks, Al Levine, the talking machine. And I tell you what, wasn't really prepared to come this quickly to it, but yeah, my Fiction and Facts from Smokin' Jim's Almanac goes all the way back to Saturday. I covered the City League Championship this past Saturday. UPrep versus Alderdice, and it was a great game. And for some reason, they started the game right around noon. Wanted everybody off the south side kind of early. But I tell you what, there were some records that fell that day. There was a junior quarterback for UPrep by the name of Ronald I call him Ronald Downtown Brown. And I think he's an elite quarterback. He is the first City League quarterback ever to pass for 3,000 yards in one season, and it's only been done 2 other times in the WPIL. He's the first City League quarterback to ever pass for 40 touchdowns in one season. And him and the kid from South Fayette, who's also a junior, I believe that those guys are the 2 elite quarterbacks heading into the 2014 season. Senior wide receiver, Marcus Johnson, who is being looked at by some Division I schools, including Pitt. Pitt's taking a peek. They're taking a peek.
They're taking a peek.
And he had 22 touchdowns this year. He's a 6'1" receiver. And UPrep defensive coordinator is a good friend of mine. We talked a long time before the game.
Mention his name then.
Is Mike Logan, former Pittsburgh Steeler, and I congratulated Mike after the game because I know when he played high school for McKeesport, they never won a championship because they had to go through Gateway.
Who?
But also the head coach of Alderdice, wanted to give a shout out to him. He was a big time hitter. Watched him play high school and college at Northgate, and a lot of people know his brother as Jim Haslett, the defensive coordinator of Washington Redskins, Jerry Haslett.
Wow.
So, and Jerry was a big time hitter. Not sure if he was on steroids like his brother Jim, but all the Haslett brothers were real tough out of Northgate. And that's what's on my mind.
Well, thank you. I snuck that in on you because I wanted to have the SIP Sports Bar a little bigger
Okay,
segment.
yeah.
That's why.
You tricked the brother.
Well, I had to do that. Just like you fool me every time when we start at 7 and it's 3 minutes to, and I go, should I give him a call or not? Forget about it. And we'll go with what usually follows yours, with Chip's trivia time. All right, Chip.
All right. Well, everybody can think back to Sunday, late afternoon, early evening,
Why?
and and our beloved Steelers took a licking. And I don't know if they're going to keep on ticking, but that got me into thinking about, okay, so here we are at the halfway point of the season. We're 2-6, okay? Mm-hmm. A lot of people are pretty upset. They're throwing in the towels. They're saying fire this person, fire that person. But you know what? I'm a lifelong Steeler fan, and I'm still representing with my colors. And I'm going to root the Steelers on and maybe have this foolish notion that they're going to go 8-0 and close the season out and make Jim a profit because he'll be correct with his 10-6 prediction. But that's a pipe dream.
Can we do a bet?
And it's
Let's do a bet.
That's a pipe dream, and it's not mere reality. But the loss that we had Sunday, everybody says Steelers gave up 55 points. It's the worst loss in Steelers history. Well, not so much.
Most points in Steelers.
Not so much. The worst loss in franchise history was dished out by the Green Bay Packers in 1941 when they beat the Steelers 54-7. Wow. The greatest margin of loss that the Steelers ever had happened in 1989, and I remember this game quite well when the Cleveland Browns beat the Steelers 51-0. Wow.
It was a terrible game to watch.
Oh, is Tim Worley still fumbling?
No, I don't know.
He couldn't pick up the ball.
Now, Green Bay beat them twice, once in 1933 and once in 1941, both times by 47 points. New England beat them by 34 points back in 1987, and Detroit spanked them by 42 points in 1983. I believe that was on Thanksgiving Day. Wow. So, as bad as that game was on Sunday, there's been worse.
No.
But, it's just...
Yeah, just a week or two before. Not point-wise, but watch-wise.
Okay. Now, running back John Henry Johnson set a record when he gained 200 yards in one game, and that was back on October the 10th, 1964. Which Steelers running back was the first to break that record?
Frenchie Fuqua.
Yeah, very good.
1970.
Frenchie,
against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Frenchie Fuqua broke it when he ran for 218 yards. Barry Foster has the home record for most yards rushing in a game.
197.
190 yards in 1992 against the Jets.
He fumbled 3 times that game.
Okay,
He'd had more yards.
The Steelers receiver broke the long-standing record of J.R. Wilburn's 12 catches in a single game. This happened back on November the 1st, 1998. And we all can remember he was a household name, Courtney Hawkins. 14
Really?
receptions
The
in one
Michigan
game
State player. That's right.
set the record for
I never
Steelers.
would have got that one, Chip.
No. You hear about the coaching carousel that goes on up in Cleveland, and, some teams are changing coaches like we change shirts. Steelers have been around for 80 years. They've had 13 head coaches. They've had, 3 head coaches in the last
44 years.
Yep. So, that leads to their success in the last 40 years. Prior to that, the first 40, they used to call the Steelers the lovable losers, and they did that for a reason. Another interesting thing, going back to the championship Steelers, and I bring this up because, our guest last night, Jim O'Brien, boy, was it a real pleasure to sit and interview him last night, and I didn't really say a word. I just listened to him, and I was captivated. He could have gone on for hours. But from 1970 to 1979, the Steelers qualified for the championship game 6 times. They went to the AFC Championship in 1972, 74, 75, 76, 78, and 79. And I don't think we're ever going to see that happen again, and it never really happened before that. The Packer teams of the 60s rung up a bunch of championships back then, but,
Bill Cowher ran up some pretty good championship numbers.
Yeah, unfortunately, he only got 1 ring, But,
Did he pay you to say that? Did your buddy Cowher pay you to say that?
Okay, and then here's my last little tidbit. What Steeler quarterback broke Bill Nelson's most consecutive passes completed mark that stood since 1967?
Wow.
Got to be.
Neil O'Donnell.
No, I would say Tommy Maddox.
Tommy Gunn.
Bobby Brister.
No, really?
The Bubster, yes,
year?
sir.
Hold it, let him go back in the files.
1989. He managed 15 in a row against the Detroit Lions.
That was with Coach Bill Walton. I mean, not
Joe Walton's offense.
Joe Walton's offense.
That offense, and Joe Walton is going to be retiring this year as head coach of Robert Morris University.
RMU.
And John Banaszak, I believe, is going to take over as his he's his heir apparent. And I remember that the Steeler teams from the late 80s and in the early 90s, and the players were so confused over Joe Walton. Well, when you have a Mensa candidate like Bubby Brister trying to decipher the offense, you have.
Did you say Mensa?
Yeah.
You can't mix Mensa and Bubby Brister.
Bubby Brister, like he said, the wind would blow in off the lake.
He believed it. That's the edge that you're looking for when they
I've been seeing his parents up in the stairs.
But that's my trivia for this week. I thought,
Thanks,
what?
Chip.
Everybody's kicking the Steelers while they're down, and you know what?
Oh, no.
They're going to rise again. They're going through a bad stretch now, but we got to keep the faith.
Arizona.
Well, it's nice, Chip, but I agree. I'm a Steeler fan, but I'm a fan. I don't have to play the game. And when we can see what's going on. We've watched other teams, so we do know.
So that segues right into our Steeler talk this evening?
Well, no. We're going to go to Sip Sports Bar. You can't interrupt the whole thing.
Okay.
These cards, I have segments, I'm telling you.
Go ahead,
Now, what
Alan.
camera do I look at, Chris? Am I good?
Go ahead.
All
Alan.
right. Sip Sports Bar, 3024 West Liberty Avenue. Make sure you come out there next week. I got a special guest there, Vince Ornato. He's a sketch artist. He did this on ESPN about 20 years ago. I'm going to post it on Facebook. Really? So when Vince watches this, I will post that up maybe tonight or tomorrow morning. He was sketching with Keith Olbermann and that Susie that's on NFL, whatever, Colbert. He was sketching her with big hair and everything else. So all of you that come to the show next week, we're going to have Vince there doing some sketches. So that'll be next Monday at about 7:30. He'll be there and we'll put the camera on him while he's sketching. So get your best look, Smoking Jim.
All right.
Just giving you a little heads up. Sunday night, they have trivia night. Monday night's Pittsburgh Sports Line night. Tuesday is our special Campides 50-cent a slice of pizza. You can only eat it there, Smoking Jim. You can't take it home with you. Shout out to Don and his wife. I don't know if they're still watching now. They usually do. We appreciate the pizza. Little Z stops in maybe once a week now. He always announces when he's going up to Campides. You have to check that out. Wednesday night is Smoking Jim's Ladies Night. And then also on Thursday night, he was up there for Dan the Man had a birthday. I won't tell you how old he is. He doesn't want you to know. He's still a young man.
29.
I don't know. I think he was 39 for a couple times. But he makes the best coffee Smoking Jim's ever drank. And he's just he's a great guy with information and what he's done in his life. Just super. Thursday night's a special for Smoking Jim and I, 25-cent wings. Great wings up there. They got a new chef, Matt, and repeats there. We had one of the best, what was that, a turkey and gravy sandwich?
Oh, that was
Look at these guys.
Thanksgiving.
I want to shout out to the owner, thanks, who's still incognito. He likes a low profile. And that's Mark. I'm not incognito, the owner. So, and then Friday night they have specials. Drink happy hours 4 to 7. So check it out there. But what I do want to bring up, just a little segue into Jim O'Brien. We've mentioned him a few times. He was on the show. We've never had a guest that took the whole show like that. The talking machine was outmanned, outmatched, overmatched, and he was nice enough that he drank a couple times so I could talk and ask some more questions. It was just a great show. Absolutely. He covered, another thing, his book, Chuck Noll. He's the first guy to write a book about Chuck Noll. He's written 25 books, 22 sports books, and these aren't lightweight books. He talks to you as we talk to each other as a person. He doesn't talk down to anybody. He has a great style.
Absolutely.
I was calling him Professor. I didn't know other people call him that, but he's just so intelligent. He's teaching classes, so you can learn off of this gentleman. He's in the Hall of Fame for sports writers in basketball. He's written on boxing. Look at the stories he told us on boxing, football. He showed us a couple pictures of Wilt Chamberlain in his room talking to him. Just awesome. So he's a wealth of history.
The thing that struck me about Jim is when you talk to him, he actually listens to you. You know, it's not one of those people that you know, he knows everything. He identifies with each person that he's talking to, and he makes you feel like a real human being. And that's a trait that not a lot of people with as much notoriety as he have for people. But he's real. He's Pittsburgh. From what did he say? Glenwood, yeah, just at the bottom of the hill from Hazelwood.
He actually grew up right around Hazelwood there, Upper St. Hazelwood. He knows the Kamikaze Kid, Chuck Bonasort, they're friends. He drops names and he knows all these people and he can go anywhere in the community. It was great to have him on the show.
Absolutely.
We're going to have him back another time. And I want you to, a special thing, if you need any gifts, check out this Chuck Noll book. We got Chip just bought the book, got it autographed. He got everything. He said to Chip, not potato chip.
Yep. No,
So,
no, I tell you what, I picked the book up when I got home last night, and I'm just leafing through it and all the nostalgia and everything from.
How about
the
those
70s.
autographs and pictures?
I couldn't put it down. I had I knew that the alarm was going off at 4:30, and I was like, I better drag myself upstairs and get to sleep. And I was just compelled to keep on flipping pages. And I'm really looking forward to diving into that.
Well, when you're done, Smoking Jim wants to take a look at it. And I did say a look at it, okay? That's on his bucket list. And he means for looking at great photos. And that's the end of our SIP segment. But come out next Monday night. We're going to have a bunch of great guests. And Vince is going to do sketches. At the end of the night, we'll have him on, and he'll show us the sketches. You guys will be amazed at how he sketches people. Very lifelike.
Can I say one more thing?
You can
about
say
this?
2 more things.
And
Great.
Want to give a shout out to Kelly Irish. She made me some homemade jam. It was the best homemade jam I ever had in my life. Thank you so much.
Hold it. Can I say one thing? He's never eaten his own mama's jam. So since he had that jam, I'm so proud of him. I heard he had a spoon from Sips so he could eat it on the way home because he usually calls me up and we talk a little bit after the show. He couldn't do it because he couldn't text. He couldn't eat the jam with the spoon. And that's it for that Sip segment. We're talking Steelers now because I'm a Steeler fan. I was the only guy in Pittsburgh yesterday to have a Steelers sweatshirt on, one of my old school turtleneck Steelers sweatshirts. The whole town was depressed. and now they're coming back a little bit. But the Steelers aren't a good team. Do they have a chance to win some games? Yes. Here's what I want: a W against Buffalo. I don't care about the rest of the season. I saw Chuck Noll looking at me the whole time I was holding the book. You got to play one game at a time.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes. I don't know what's going on with the team, but I know they're rebuilding. I know they're in trouble. I know they can't play that well, but I believe they can win.
Well, they're going to win some games.
They got to beat more than 5 if you want to look ahead as a fan.
Between now and the end of the season. But, what was painfully obvious to anybody that watched the game on Sunday is, the Steelers are really, the defense is getting old, and the players that, we're relying on to make plays, they just simply aren't making them. I don't know if it's because they can't or they won't, but, we don't have any adequate reserves that we can put in and take their place. I think what they should
Why
do.
is that, though?
Well, that goes
Get
back
to the heart
Kevin,
of it.
Kevin Colbert and the scouting department. They need to be better evaluators of talent. I don't think that what you're going to see, people on all the local talk shows want to fire everybody, and I don't see the Steelers, doing that. I mean, Kevin Colbert's had a run of bad drafts the last few years, but the guy's been here for 12 or 13 years, and we've had most success then. And I know Jim's going to credit it all to the chin. But, he takes part of the credit. But, these guys are competent. They have done their job well. They just need to, circle the wagons and get back and do it again. And I actually think what they ought to do at this point is they ought to let all these rookies play. I want to see Shamarko Thomas out there playing the rest of the year. Get him battle-tested because, you know what? You drafted him to be, Troy's or Ryan Clark's replacement.
But Chip, if they do that, then it really is a rebuilding year. They're not going to acknowledge it. That's the problem with the Steeler Nation. First of all, we have no tolerance for that. Second of all, they've never been honest as Steelers that they're rebuilding. We've gone through losing seasons, but they won't say it's rebuilding. Smoking Jim, and I keep publicizing him everywhere, has been given D's and D minuses everywhere, and we laughed at him. Even myself, I doubted him. I can't right now, but I'm not betting a house on anything he tells me. I don't care what it is, if it's a lead cinch pipe. But he does know talent, and he does know lack of talent. And my thing is, I got interviewed on a show, BlackCentral.com.
Did a great job, too.
And the thing is, I didn't know they were going to ask me questions, and he asked me questions about players. Now, these are my own personal thoughts, and I sort of paused on it, and I kept thinking when he asked about Ike Taylor, yeah, he did slow down. Maybe all the times he gave other people concussions, he's been concussed. What happened this game? He got a concussion. Wow. And he looks a little lost out there. Ryan Clark, he's been interviewing for ESPN. I don't blame him. He's going to have a nice career doing that, for a while anyhow. And these are part of the problems when you see them playing defense. You shouldn't have Troy Polamalu as a linebacker. But Dick LeBeau's a genius on defense. He doesn't have the horses. I talk about that all the time. When you look at Kiesel running around at 36, outplaying younger guys, except for Cam Hayward now, who's come on a little bit, you have a problem. Look at the first-round picks that you've had. Where are they?
But, the problems just don't only exist on the defensive side.
We're talking defense now. We'll go to offense, but I wasn't ready yet.
The offensive end, you look at what we started the season with as our starting trio of wide receivers. We don't have a legitimate number one wide receiver.
Well, why?
Because we let Mike Wallace go.
Okay, now look what he's done when he left town. So maybe it was the right move. Well, we don't know what's going on the inside.
We never will, and they'll never let us know. But the wide receiving core, has its moments of brilliance and more moments of inconsistency. I think we've got a future star as a running back in Le'Veon Bell. The young man is showing some promise, but without an offensive line, how is he ever going to be able to shine? And how is Ben Roethlisberger going to live to see his retirement check? Because right there is the crux of the offensive problem. When we had to stop in the first half. Well, we stopped them on 4 downs at the 1 yard line. And then the minute they snapped the ball, I'm yelling at the TV set, whatever you do, don't throw the ball from the end zone. You're good, what's he do? Threw the ball. Didn't have enough time to throw it, underthrew the ball, picked. And that's what happens. Because he cannot go back there and take any more than 2 or 3 steps back and without.
But it's
getting rid of
not
the
in
ball.
his DNA. But back to the defense, Tom Brady was hurt. Jim Nance showed, they made the camera show his hand double in size. He hadn't played that well. And look what he did to us. So, I mean, that's part of the problem. If a guy who's one of the best quarterbacks isn't 100%, can tear you up for over 400 yards, that's a thing. And over 629 yards. Chip, I'm still inflamed about the defense because I blame it on the whole team, coaches, Colbert, everybody else. But you do have to play out there. And if they bring in all these rookies, you'll have that happen every week.
Well, you know, I mean, and
that's my opinion here.
We've heaped a lot of abuse here so far on portion of the defense, but you know, there are a couple of people that have escaped our venom. I think should be recognized for the fact that they're not producing the way they're getting paid, and that's Lamar Woodley and Lawrence Timmons. Here, you got $100 million tied up in contracts to those 2 players right there. Those players are being played like all-pro caliber linebackers. They certainly aren't playing like it, you know.
Well, Timmons did have a good game before he broke his hand.
Well, you know, I mean, a good game. I mean, you know, you need to play a season.
That was my point.
16 games long, and then, you know, if 3 games in the postseason, if you keep it going. But, I mean, you know, from now to the end of the season, I think these guys with the big paychecks, you know, they need to start showing that they want to play here and that they're worth paying. Otherwise, they're not going to be around, you know, because...
Well, you're hinting like they quit. I don't think they quit. I think they were so overmatched in the game. A lot of people are saying they're quitters.
Saying they quit.
No, but I mean, people are saying that all over the place.
I'm not saying they quit. They just haven't played up to their capabilities. And you look at what Troy Polamalu, you know, I think this year, enjoy these next 8 games. It's going to be the last time we see Troy in a Steelers uniform because next year his cap hit on the team is going to be $8.1 or $8.4 million. And you know,
Head and Shoulders are paying.
well, you know what? That's not gonna work well because they're not getting that kind of production out of them. You know.
Well,
and
then, if you go to that theory, I'm going to flip to the offense. Why would you want to keep a $102 million quarterback when he's not going to make a difference while we're rebuilding the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, because
you have no offensive line.
Because he's a good tipper. Oh,
because in the NFL today, to have any chance of winning, you've got to have a
We don't have
quality
it.
quarterback. We've got a quarterback that can keep us into games even with inferior talent. You know, the stud running back doesn't do anything for you anymore. In today's NFL, you've got to have a franchise quarterback, and you know who you're going to put in there after.
Well,
that.
I just hope we're
There
not
isn't
talking
anybody.
2 years from now and Big Ben's near the end of his career because they have never had a good offensive line with him. His rookie year and the first couple years, they were still tough. The defense was the best part of the team, not him. So now he is getting older, and he's still trying to make that play. Some of these things you can't continue to hold the ball. I know it's on in his DNA, but just take a sack. What would it matter in the stats?
I'll
Take
tell
a
you.
sack.
Tell you what I'd like to see happen is that, you know, and I hear he's finally going to play this year is Marcus Wheaton. A very high draft pick, and he's supposed to be a very, very good receiver. And I want to see what he can bring to the offense. And he needs to get out on the field now. I don't know. You know, I know he's a wide receiver, and you got to catch with your hands. And he had a broken pinky, and hasn't played yet this year. And you know.
Smoking Jim might know more about that. How's that pinky affect you, or is it more to it than that?
Well,
Put some stickum on it and some tape.
Put a
and you
glove
go
on
and
it.
play.
well, maybe Emmanuel Sanders is
Who?
bullying him.
Who?
Maybe he's going through hazing. Maybe he hurt his hand hazing with the wide receiver. No leader of the wideouts anymore when Hines Ward left. But, you know, Wheaton is an outstanding prospect as wide receiver. But the guy I'm more high on, and I think that they got 2 young receivers up and coming, is Derek Moy. So you got Derek Moy, and you got Wheaton, who ran track also at Oregon State. So the stamina is there, and Antonio Brown's leading the league in receiving.
61 catches, and he got benched. Can you believe that today? I don't believe that.
I didn't even realize that until somebody mentioned it. I got to go back and listen to the press conference
He
so I
got
can see where the rubber meets the road, as you say.
No, it's not here yet.
Oh, it's not here
And the
yet?
standard's not the
Tom,
standard
Tom,
yet.
Tomlin said he sat him down for the last series because he wasn't paying attention to the details, and the last interception that Ben threw was because of Antonio Brown's making a mistake, running the wrong route. So,
And that shows
But he
me,
did say that he will be starting this week.
and you know what that shows me? When you have all these little things coming up, that there's no details, that's a losing team. That's a losing culture. We're not used to it on the Steelers. All this little stuff, and these guys are going to get disciplined now. Here's my question. What will happen before? When you're disciplining people now, this stuff's been going on. Look, you got rid of the games. I'm outraged they got rid of all the games in the locker room.
But, here's the thing that I think.
At least they were winning. That's all.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, we're all pretty upset with the way they performed on the first part of the season. It makes me more intrigued to see what kind of Steeler team is going to show up for the final 8 games. We're going to find out. How good the coaching staff is, and what kind of heart we got with the guys that are going to be on this team. Because there's a lot of players on this team right now that are going to be the heart and soul of the team moving forward, and they're being battle tested now.
If I'm a general, I need a lot more soldiers.
Gonna take that hill with this team?
No, no way. I think we've beat this. No, we didn't beat this dead horse. There's still more to go. I'm not upset because I'm a fan. I'm frustrated. And I'm more frustrated because I picked 11-5, and I hate when they fool me like that because they looked like they had that potential. And like one of our guests did say, the only guest last night, Jim O'Brien said, Chuck Knowles said there's a lot of potential out there, but you have to prove yourself. And that's what didn't happen. And I'm with Chip. I'm watching the games. I watched this whole 55-point debacle. The whole game.
Yeah,
there's something wrong with me. I'm telling you.
And I've just got tickets to go down on the 15th, and I'm going to watch the Bungles stumble into town. And I hope.
Oh, they're number 1.
Yeah, but you know what? I'd love to. Nothing better than a hapless Steeler team to beat the Bengals and mess up their chance at a division title.
And they blew one, didn't they?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they did.
Definitely.
Sacked in the end zone. It's the typical Bengals.
Well, we'll see what happens. They usually blow up. But look at Cleveland's in second place.
Yeah, I'm proud of them.
Yeah, but
and I tell you what, they Cleveland Browns got an opportunity to move forward when they got rid of Trent Richardson. The value that they got is almost comparable to what Dallas got with the Herschel Walker trade.
Really?
Now you have to make great decisions when you get these picks.
Write this down to stay. Because
So
Smoke and Jim's making a statement.
Cleveland now has 2
awesome.
first-round draft picks in next year's draft. Let's not lose sight of the fact that last year Cleveland had 2 first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
And what did they take? They took Trent Richardson. They took Brandon Weeden. They were both bums.
Yeah.
So they traded them off. So, they don't have a real good record of success of drafting first-round draft picks just because you got the picks.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily
That's true.
mean that, now this draft coming up, I understand, is supposed to be a little bit more quarterback heavy than this past draft was. So,
Well, if you don't
see.
succeed, try again. They get 2 more picks. They get to try. Let's be optimistic. I'm not optimistic about Cleveland.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the Steelers here. And we'll talk about that another time. We only got a few more minutes, 6 minutes to give a discussion here. What other sports? I threw my card away on whatever you want to talk.
Let's touch on the football playoffs this weekend. There's some great Quad A matchups in the.
Who do you like?
We've got Upper St. Clair is playing North Allegheny. North Allegheny's the 3-time defending Whitfield champ, defending state champs. And Upper St. Clair has just been steamrolling everybody this year. I'll be at the game on Friday night. It'll be at Baldwin High School, and I know Jim's heart's going to be over in the Fox Chapel watching the Gateway Gators play Central Catholic.
And Gateway already beat North Allegheny this year, so beating Central Catholic would just be another feather in their cap.
Well, I'll tell you the one thing about Central Catholic and Upper St. Clair this year is both these teams have been giving up an average of like 3 or 4 points a game to their opponents. I mean, they've been playing stout defense, and and I know this disturbs my friend Jim, but I think it's ultimately going to be Central Catholic and Upper St. Clair playing for the championship. I know we got McKeesport playing Penn Trafford now. Oh, by the way, didn't they both beat Gateway?
Chip, you got to pause a little bit better because you would have knocked him out. He was actually listening to you. If you would have just paused, I'll teach you that 10-second delay.
Let's call it pregnant pause or whatever. No, but so there are some really, really good matchups on Friday night. I'm looking forward to them. Then there's also, you get into the AAA, Thomas Jefferson is going to be playing Highlands. And Central Valley is playing Mars. Both those teams are 9-1. West Allegheny, Bob Palco's team is going up against Indiana, and that team's only 5-5. So there's some great AAA games, and Thomas Jefferson is the odds-on favorite to win the AAA for Whippeals and for the states. I'm pulling for West Allegheny. Aliquippa is playing Quaker Valley. Mount Pleasant's playing Beaver. South Fayette is playing Seton LaSalle.
That's my team.
South Fayette has got a very, very strong team, and I think we're going to end up seeing Aliquippa and South Fayette going head-to-head. And then you've got the undefeated Stowe Rocks team playing Apollo Ridge.
And next week they'll play maybe Clareton.
Yeah, and Clareton's playing Fort Cherry. Fort Cherry's no slouch this year. They're 10-1. Got North Catholic, who's undefeated against Avonworth, and Monessen is playing Neshannock. And Neshannock has been coming on strong, going into the playoffs. So, there's some great football to be watched. Just avoid Heinz Field this weekend.
A little tip from Chip.
Oh, man.
How to get that.
Yeah.
Thanks for the updates on the high school. We appreciate it. All you guys and girls, I know you'll be out there watching football. It's very popular right now. We need wins in the neighborhood, so see your local team win some games. We're winding it down. Smoking Jim, where are you going to be this weekend? I know it's not a gateway, so tell us the truth.
Well, I won't say where I'll be this weekend, but he brought up Fort Cherry, and I just wanted to drop a little bomb on Fort Cherry, which I love Fort Cherry. But Marvin Lewis went to Fort Cherry. Marty Schottenheimer went to Fort Cherry. And Todd Haley's dad went to Fort Cherry. And it's no surprise that Fort Cherry never won a WPIAL championship.
Again, these are the opinions of Smoking Jim Frazier. And not that he hates certain people. He's no hater. He's just opinionated. And if he don't like you, he never likes you. Well, that's all you got going on then? Okay. Chip, we already know where you're going. Yeah. We got a couple minutes left here. We got boxing, Smoking Jim. Yeah. One of your favorite places, one of the favorite venues you like, the Royal Place.
I tell you what, they always make us feel very well at home. Some great boxing matches going on, and we have Monty Everhart, who's already told me that he's going to turn pro as a welterweight next July 2014.
So this may be his last fight as an amateur.
It's going to be the last time you see him fight in the headgear this season. So come on and check him out. He's probably going to win the national championship this year.
And Wolfpack Boxing Club, they have a boxer that's going to be boxing there too. So we've got a lot of excitement in the area. Ticket prices aren't that expensive either. I think from $15 to $35. You have a nice night out there.
What if you bring a toy?
Oh, wait a second. November 19th for our white collar brawler, red carpet. Smoking Jim and I will be in a limousine. If you want tickets, Jimmy Savetic said, oh man, what's that number? You got to call 298-7373. Bring a ticket. I got Chips coming. Stephanie's going to be there. Smoking Jim and I will be there. If you want a ticket, he said, buy yo-yos for the kids. Buy any type of toy. You can get in there for the event.
A black baby doll, Barbie
No,
doll.
we were hearing black Barbies. Smoking Jim got a whole trunk load of them. They're only $5 each. Hey, we're going to have to end the show. And these are our own opinions. If you don't
weave.
Get out of here. We're ready to go. Thanks for watching us. Appreciate you guys in the area from Uniontown to Cranberry, Wexford, East Liberty. Go out to the see Paduta and Homewood at the party. Smoking Jim and I might make it. To all the local candidates here, congratulations. Glad you got out to vote. Thanks for watching the show.